Draft Companies and Limited Liability Partnerships, Protection and Disclosure of Information and Consequential Amendments, Regulations 2024.
Call the Minister to move the motion.
Mr Efford, it's a particular joy to serve, I think for the first time, under your chairmanship during a statutory instrument debate. I beg to move that the draft Companies and Limited Liability Partnerships, Protection and Disclosure of Information and Consequential Amendments, Regulations 2024, which were laid before the House on the 31st of October, be approved. These regulations are part of a programme to implement the Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act 2023, the 23 Act, as I'll refer to from now on. The Government is committed to tackling economic crime and enhancing the UK's standing as a place where legitimate business thrives. The reforms within the 23 Act support this by reforming the way Companies House operates. There has already been much progress. In March, stricter rules and checks were introduced, which is already helping Companies House to cleanse the register from fraudulent filings. Companies House's organisational transformation is also in full swing, with the expansion of its intelligence functions and relationship building with law enforcement agencies. Significant advances then have already been made, but much remains to be done to make all the reforms a reality. This SI is part of that next phase of reform. It is a key principle that individuals running companies and other entities should register their details so that they are contactable and can be held to account for the entity's affairs. However, disclosure of personal information on the public register can lead to a risk of fraud and identity theft, or put individuals at risk for other reasons, such as in the cases of domestic abuse. Currently, in certain cases, an individual can apply for protection of their residential address by the registrar. This prevents it from being made publicly available. However, the current legislation does not allow protection where a residential address was formerly used as a company's registered office address. Companies House regularly receive requests for this, including from survivors of domestic abuse, police officers, judges, and even members of this House. These regulations will deliver the first of several reforms to enhance the protection of personal information. The regulations allow applications to protect a residential address where it was previously used as a company's registered office address. The SI also caters for the scenario where a residential address was used as a dissolved company's registered office address at the point of the company's dissolution. In such cases, an application may only be made 6 months after the company's dissolution. This is to balance privacy concerns against the interests of third parties who might need to restore the dissolved company to the register to pursue a claim against it. Examples include creditors and personal injury claimants. Those applying to court to restore a dissolved company to the register need the company's registered office address as part of the court process. If the registered office address of a dissolved company has been protected, this instrument will also allow the registrar to disclose that address. To do so, the registrar must be satisfied that the address is needed to make an application to restore the company to the register. Lastly, this instrument also amends legislation which applies company law to limited liability partnerships to ensure the framework for limited liability partnerships keeps in step with that for companies. I so move.
The question is that the committee has considered the draft Companies and Limited Liability Partnerships, Protection and Disclosure of Information and Consequential Amendments, Regulations 2024. Call Shadow Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Efford, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship this morning. It is very important for the UK's international business reputation that we have a public companies register. And clearly, the transparency of our register is important for tackling and dealing economic crime. However, we accept that having personal information on the public companies register can put individuals at risk of fraud and other harms. I'm sure many honourable members are aware of such cases. And so this instrument, which widens the range of circumstances in which individuals may apply to the register to protect their usual residential address where it appears on the company's register, will help to ensure that the registrar is able to decide not to display that address publicly. And it's good to see the government carrying forward the broader package of measures from the corporate transparency and register reform white paper, which was published in February 22, and the ensuing legislation. These were important measures for supporting corporate transparency, and it's vital to the UK for its ability to attract investment, to tackle fraud, and to build confidence. We support reforms to create a more secure system which allows certain individuals to apply to protect their usual residential address from public disclosure. And we are pleased to hear that progress is being made on the pledge from the last government of a total of £63 million to support the reform of Companies House, around 20 million additional budget per year, and this is important. We do, however, have some questions about this particular instrument, including its impact on fraud and public scrutiny of companies. So, well, we're not going to oppose the regulations this morning. I would appreciate it if the Minister could reply to the following questions. In the explanatory note, it says that Companies House has been inundated. That's the word used by requests to go into the undisclosed part of the register. So can the Minister assure the committee that there is sufficient resource at Companies House to deal with the potential step change in terms of workload that this particular regulation will create? Will the Minister be able to assure the committee that he cannot see or foresee any issue in people not being able to check whether a company is legitimate, and what the potential unintended consequences of that might be? And could the Minister explain how he's considered the potential for this instrument to make it more difficult to check, or at least see, if their own address is being used for fraud? And what steps will the Minister take to ensure that investigations into companies such as shell companies locating at one address are not hampered by this legislation? So in summary, Mr Efford, could the Minister describe his ability to scrutinise the Registrar's own decision-making process with regard to this statutory instrument, and how much guidance he is able to exert in terms of the Registrar's discretion? And how does the Minister expect the discussions to go with the work that the Foreign Office is doing in terms of working with some of our overseas territories to ensure greater transparency and disclosure in terms of their registers?
Minister.
I'm grateful to the Right Honourable Lady who leads for the opposition on this issue. On the question of resources, as she rightly alludes to, there have been some additional resources given to Companies House, which will help them implement not just this SI, but a number of other SIs which are due to be implemented to help with the implementation of the 2023 Act. On the question of whether there are any risks of not being able to track a company and fraudulent individuals who've been involved in the company, we have discussed this carefully both across government and with Companies House, and believe that on that the right balance has been struck. But of course, we'll always keep these things under review. In terms of working with overseas territories, she will understand from her own experience that before legislation is brought forward, government discusses it across government, so including with colleagues in the Foreign Office, to check that the implications of particular measures are being considered at all levels of government. And we believe that the package of measures under the 2023 Act, when they are implemented in full, will both allow us to continue to crack down on economic crime, as well as ensuring genuine privacy for those individuals who rightly deserve it. And on that basis, I commend the regulations to the House.
The question is that the committee has considered the draft Companies and Limited Liability Partnerships Protection and Disclosure of Information and Consequential Amendments, Regulations 2024. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Contrary no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Order.